Hey Soul Surfers! Welcome back to Waves of Consciousness with my spiritual ocean. My name is Alicia. Today we are riding the manifestation wave and we are going to talk about resistance while manifesting. So if you're all set, let's go ahead and dive on in. If you would like to work with me one-on-one, you can book services online at www.myspiritualocean.com. All right, let's start off with talking about what is resistance. According to dictionary.com, resistance is the act or power of resisting, opposing, or withstanding. It's also the opposition offered by one thing, force, etc., to another. And in psychiatry, it's opposition to an attempt to bring repressed thoughts or feelings into consciousness. Now, in terms of manifestation, this is my definition of resistance. Resistance is the subconscious mind's level of unwillingness to experience something differently due to negative associations or past experiences with the desired idea, concept, or experience. Which kind of ties in with me to the dictionary.com definition of the opposition offered by one thing, force, etc. to another. So when there's resistance, the conscious mind is trying to consciously manifest something, and the subconscious is opposing it with all of this evidence of why it's not true or possible. Now, the resistance that you carry to something correlates to the number and intensity of the negative associations with that thing. And these negative associations can cause worry or create doubt about your ability to manifest the things that you really want. So how can you identify resistance? Well, as I just said, the level of resistance that you hold to something is directly correlated to the number and intensity of the negative associations that your subconscious mind has with that thing or desire. And the way that you can identify this is to start by rating on a scale of 1 to 10 whether or not you feel that your desire is possible. Now, notice that I didn't say, do you think it's possible? I said, do you feel it's possible? You can have consciously learned, think, and know that anything is possible, but there's going to be a difference in the way you feel it. So I want you to be very honest with yourself. This honesty is super important in this part. Sit and think of your desire, and I want you to feel in your body if you feel resistance. And resistance can seem like uncomfortable emotions. It can feel like tension in the body. Maybe you stop breathing when you're thinking about it. These are all indications. But I really want you to sit with that and rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how possible this desire feels. And I said on a scale of 1 to 10, but if it feels like a 0 or a negative, that's your reality and that can be true for you. And again, the honesty is the most important part because lying to yourself about where you're at isn't really going to get you anywhere. Another way that you can identify resistance or the level of resistance is to affirm for what you want and identify any negative thoughts that come up. Do a lot of them come up? Do a few of them come up? Do you feel bombarded and overwhelmed with negative thoughts or opposition to what it is that you're affirming? The more overwhelmed you feel, the more resistance you probably have. You can also see when you're affirming if any negative or uncomfortable emotions come up as well, or if there's any sensations in your body that kind of cause you to tense up in any kind of a way or that don't feel very good, kind of like we talked about in the rate 1 through 10 section. Another way to identify resistance, which I've kind of already been talking about, is to get in tune with your body. Your body is a physical manifestation of what's going on in your subconscious mind. So when you tune into your body, then you can feel what resistance you have. So when you say these affirmations, do you believe that these affirmations are true? And if the answer is no, that's okay. This is a process. And to be honest, if you believe they were true, you probably wouldn't be here learning to manifest what you want, at least on a conscious level. When you're getting in tune with your body, do uncomfortable emotions come up? Again, it's all kind of the same questions, but doing it in a different way and in a more targeted way. So the first is focusing on your thoughts, the other is focusing on your body. So that's how you can identify resistance to something. And you can identify resistance to a specific affirmation, a specific person, a specific thing you want, like money. This works for everything. Now let's talk about the path of least resistance versus no resistance. Where there's resistance, there's an opportunity to grow. And I want to use this weightlifting analogy to help illustrate resistance with manifestation. So let's say you're wanting to lift weights. You want to lift 200 pounds with your arms on a barbell. If you went into the gym now, or wherever this barbell is, doesn't have to be at a gym, would you be able to lift that 200 pounds right now? Now, every single person is going to have a different answer. Somebody who is well skilled and has been lifting weights, they may be able to go in and just lift that 200-pound weight, no problem. They don't have any resistance to it, but they're also not growing. Not that that's a bad thing in this example, but they wouldn't be resisting anything. They just can do it. They have no resistance to it. They're used to it already. But the main point is you can go in and try, and depending how strong your muscles are or how built they are and well versed, I guess, to handle the amount of weight that's on the bar, that's going to tell you the amount of resistance there is. So let's say you go in and you try to lift up this bar and you cannot do it. It is so heavy, it barely lifts off the ground. If you keep trying to do it at that barbell, maybe eventually you'll be able to lift it up over time, but you're probably going to burn yourself out and you might even hurt yourself. So instead of trying to lift that weight all at once, you build yourself up to that weight. And just because you can't lift that weight in full now doesn't mean you will never be able to lift that amount of weight. But you might also go in and be able to get it part way up, but can't get it the full way up. That's okay. Your muscles, your skills are built for a partial lift, but there's still some resistance and still some building and growth you can do to fully lift that weight. So what do? You start smaller. You start by lifting an 8-pound weight, or heck, even a 2-pound weight, 2-pound weights, 3-pound weights, 5, 10, and you build yourself up slowly to that 200 pounds. And the more you build that muscle and practice that repetition, notice they call it repetitions when you're doing weightlifting. When you do more repetitions, your muscles get used to that weight, and then you continue on from there until you get to the 200 pounds. It's not to say that lifting that 200 pounds is ever going to be 100% completely easy. Maybe it will be, but it's going to be based on how much you are consistent and repetitively lifting that weight and practicing that skill, essentially. So that progressive growth eventually leads you to lifting the weight that you want in full. And then when you get to that goal, you may even have a desire to go beyond that and lift more than that. And then you would kind of do the same process over and over again. So how this relates to manifestation, obviously there's a goal, there's a process, there's a level of resistance and practice and embodiment and consistency, persistence, as they say, to get where you want and to manifest what you want. So how do you manifest something when you have a lot of resistance to it, or enough of resistance that it feels pretty challenging? Well, if you are well versed in manifestation, you know about the saying and phrase, living in the end. So if you are trying to live in the end, you have your end scene of what it is you want to experience, and it feels super challenging to hold that experience, or you feel a lot of emotion, uncomfortable, negative emotion related to it, or doubt, then this may be the time to manifest in steps. But this is the advice and guidance I give clients and people that I work with when they are manifesting something that they feel like they have a lot of resistance to. That is to check in with yourself and see what feels possible or comfortable, and then go a step beyond that, because that's where you're going to grow. So the more you hold on to the comfortable experience and you're well versed in that, that's great. But when you add that extra step, that's going to build your tolerance and ability to hold that experience with that desire. So for example, when you're manifesting a specific person, even though you want a fully committed relationship, maybe even marriage with somebody, you might be manifesting a text. Maybe that's the capacity that you're at because you don't believe that it's possible to manifest that whole relationship. And that's just one step. And that's okay. But you want to go a little step beyond that. If the text itself feels impossible, then maybe there's a need to go a step down and feel what is possible toward and in favor of your manifestation, though. This is where you have to challenge yourself a little bit, but not burn yourself out or put yourself in a spiral or tailspin. And sometimes that looks like just sitting with your emotions and processing your emotions before moving toward manifesting something that you want, even if it's a text message. Because when you are emotionally stable and emotionally regulated, then it's easier to focus on the things that you want. Back to manifesting in steps. So if you are in a space where what you want and what you're thinking about feels comfortable, then add on to that. And as you do it, just like in the weight analogy, eventually you'll be able to hold that full experience and the feeling of having that desire now, even if it hasn't manifested yet. I mean, it has manifested, but maybe not in your 3D reality yet, because creation is finished. And if you're feeling overwhelmed and burnt out by manifestation, I do have a podcast episode all about manifestation burnout, what it is and how to prevent it. So you can check that out if that's something that resonates for you. But let's move forward. We already talked about how to identify resistance. Let's talk about how to release that resistance. So something that is helpful to release resistance is to identify the purpose of that resistance, whether it's a negative thought, a negative emotion, because everything serves a purpose. Even if you acknowledge that that purpose is just to help you feel safe because you know how to handle things when you're feeling that way or thinking that way, that works just fine too. But when you identify the purpose behind why it's there, it helps you acknowledge and validate that thought or that emotion. And validating doesn't mean you have to accept it. It just means acknowledging that you understand and that you see it and you hear it. Next, you can show gratitude for that resistance, for the purpose it served, for helping keep you safe, or whatever it is that you have identified. Gratitude is a very powerful practice, and it can help you release things more easily. Then you can use the validate and shift method. This is one of my favorite methods. It's one that I teach in practice. But all this process really is when you experience an uncomfortable thought or emotion come up, validate it. Allow it to be there without feeding it a narrative, without buying into it, without acting on it. Let it be there without judgment. That's going to give space for this emotion to pass through you. There's other techniques you can use to also move this energy through. And then when the emotion is past, you can identify the narrative that was associated with it. Write that down, and then you can rewrite that narrative for yourself. Remind yourself what's actually true, or what you want to believe is true, because that will become your reality, even if it isn't right now. And then you consistently do this method as uncomfortable thoughts or emotions come up. And as you do that, you're going to feel a lot better because you're not suppressing your emotions, and you're also not giving your power away to your thoughts or your emotions. You're in control, you're in charge, and you can redirect and rewrite your story and create a whole new reality for yourself. But the most efficient way that I have found to release resistance is using the emotion code, body code, and belief code. They take the guesswork out of what is going on underneath, go straight to the subconscious mind and say, hey, what's going on here? And then we release it. If you'd like to learn more about that, you can visit my website at www.myspiritualocean.com. One main key takeaway I want you to remember through this, though, is that you do not have to be completely resistance-free to manifest what you want. Do not create that limiting belief for yourself. You can go through, focus on what it is you want, and process resistance along the way and release it. But you don't have to be completely resistance-free, no resistance to your manifestation for it to come. It may or may not come in pieces along the way, and then you can build your skills to hold that experience and mold it into what you want through your internal work. But you don't have to release all resistance in order to experience what you want. You just have to release enough to allow that experience to come in. And in the belief code, we call this the key log theory. So the key log theory is back in the day when there were loggers, they were sending logs down the river. And a lot of times there would be log jams. So what they would do is send somebody to find the log, because there was usually just one log that was causing the problem or causing the backup. So they would go find that one log, and when they pulled that one log, then everything just flowed on its own. So when you kind of release that one main thing, the key log or the key belief or the key resistance, then things will flow naturally and you'll start to see things unfold for yourself. The more you acknowledge and release this resistance as it comes up, the easier life is going to be and feel. And the more you're going to more naturally, automatically stand in your power instead of giving your power away to your thoughts, emotions, and circumstances, and not dwell in those thoughts, emotions, and circumstances. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for joining me. I will catch you on the next wave.